Hi, I'm James Haddo. In the last video, I showed you how the dashboard works and what it means. And now I'm going to go on and show you what the other tabs down here are showing you and how to interact with them. So the first one here is the Demographics tab, and it gives you an age distribution of all your patients. The blue lines are you, and the grey lines is everybody else except you. If you want to see what the unit in total does in terms of the age distribution, then you can actually look at the table down at the bottom here and compare the figures across all the age deciles. It's a very similar chart for ASA distribution. One thing to show you now is basically what's happening up here at the top. So the first bit up here on the top left is about your data completeness. It will show how many of your records are complete. That means how much is got all the complete data in it, how many records we're actually looking at that contribute to the data that you're seeing right now, and then again also everybody else's. You can see Alexander Fleming is better than everyone else at completing all their records. The light grey bar there is the ones that have been signed off, but the figure here is the complete number of records. Then along here you have things called slicers, and these allow you to change the data that's being represented in these charts and tables. So for example, if you wanted to just look at the year 2019, you would click on that slicer and it will change all the charts for you to show just 2019 data, and it won't just do it on this sheet, it will also do it for all the other sheets but not the dashboard. So all the other sheets will change as well. So you can then start to say, okay, well, it was 2019 different to 2020, and you can change the slicers and have a look at see how those distributions are changing. The same goes for all these other slices. So this one here is to select whether the admission was an acute admission or not an acute admission, whether it was a day case procedure or whether it was an inpatient procedure. Whether it was an elective index admission, and you can see the previous video to find out exactly what that means, and same for an emergency laparotomy admission. That means any admission where it was an emergency laparotomy was performed. So these slices are really powerful to help you understand your data. So you can clear the filters just by clicking this clear filter button up here, and also this gives you an option to select more than one slice at a time. So for example, you might if you had several years and you wanted to look at 2 years, you would use that to select 2 years instead of just one. So let's move on and see what the admissions tab shows. And again, it's showing you the number of admissions over time, and it will show you it by month. But you have these expand and contract buttons down here, and you can actually change it to an annual timeline by clicking the negative button, or back up to a monthly timeline. And the chart at the bottom will also update regarding that as well. It's pretty similar for length of stay and also unplanned readmission rate. Moving on, we've got the operations tab, and again that shows you the number of operations by month. And then we come to this table here on the top 10 procedures. Now this is basically the number of procedures you performed in the timeline that's shown according to the slicers. But of course that's not all the procedures you do, but in order to show this chart nicely I've chosen the top 10, but you can actually manually change that, especially if you want to look at this table and see every procedure that you've done. Use these filters here on this pivot chart. So you click on this button and you will see that there is currently a filter here saying top 10, and you can just clear that filter. So if you clear that filter, then you will now have all the procedures you've done and all the numbers against them, like that. On this table here you have a length of stay again by procedure, and again so it's showing you what your length of stay is versus everyone else in your unit, and then also the unit in total their length of stay. Again, it's top 10, and if you wanted to expand that, you can clear the filter on there, and then you can get all your procedures and your length of stay versus everyone else. The unplanned reintervention rate is a similar chart that I've already shown you in the previous worksheets. Moving on to complications. So this one will show you the number of severe complications, the rate of severe complications over time, and again with the expand and contract buttons there. And top 10 complications. So this is going to show you, if we just go down to the table for a second, all the different complications, you versus other people in your unit and the unit as a whole. And then you've got these two global filters above here. And if you want to say, okay, at the moment this is showing you aggregated figures for all your procedures, but if you wanted to really be interested in, say, for example, hemicolectomy, you could type that in here and select unselect everything and then select just hemicolectomy, and now these are your figures for just hemicolectomy. And then you might think, well, actually there's a big difference between an emergency hemicolectomy where you might accept higher risks versus an elective one. So let's actually say this is going to be not acute, so we're going to click not acute. And now we're starting to get an idea of what our figures really are. So for this one, the anastomotic leak rate for Alexander Fleming is 0, and the whole unit is, the other people in the unit is 5.6%. So the unit's average is 3.8%, which is probably about right. So moving on to the mortality tab, again you're going to see plenty of data according to that, and mortality by procedure, which again, because of the previous tab, is showing you just for hemicolectomy, but you could change that again and take off the slicer, for example, and you would see all the other mortality for all the other procedures you're doing here. So that's all the tabs, and in the next video I'll show you some advanced features if you ever want to really delve even further into your data. Okay, thanks.